at Town Hall. If you are reaching us via Zoom, the webinar ID is 894-8156-7866. I don't know if there's any public comment.
No hands raised online.
Thank you. So the next item would be the project update from Elizabeth.
Thank you. So first I wanted to note that I did take off some of our ongoing projects. I took the liberty of taking those off. We are always welcome to talk about 107 and the fair project, but those are obviously fully occupied and leased at this time. We got, again, great information about the initial lease up, which I think I gave you. So just wanted to note that I omitted those this time, but happy to answer any questions as they arise. Governor Prince, I understand that someone might be joining us to talk about that from the project team. So I'll just skip over to 44 Main Street for my portion of it. I did go back and sort of extensively summarize work to date, look at the proposed project that the trust did, and confirmed that I do think we could move forward by right with that project under zoning as it exists today under the downtown housing overlay, and did a bunch of sort of due diligence on the existing sewer and utility connections. So I think we're all set to sort of put a team together and talk about how we might want to move forward on this on a capital perspective. I know there has been some money set aside in the CIP for additional work and study and maybe even facilitation of that working group. So I know Andrea's been very interested in this. Maybe we can connect on who to put in the room to move this forward and go to next steps, but we're all set on that. And Governor Prince, I see we might have Charlie on the line, and ask maybe Peggy if he could let him in.
I don't see a Charlie.
C-D-I-R-A-C.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Yep. There you go.
Charlie, are you with us?
He's on his way in.
All right.
Thank you. Charlie, you with us?
Yes. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Charlie.
Yeah, no problem. Just trying to get my video set up. Bear with me for one moment. Let's see if that works. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. So on Governor Prince, since we last gave an update to this group, some good news on the zoning front. We have been waiting for some time to get the project eligibility letter from EOHLC. We're very excited to have received that. That was kind of the final piece that we had been waiting on to assemble our full formal submission to the ZBA. Just this week, actually, we're putting kind of the finishing touches on some of the engineering components to our application, and our plan is to go to the printers actually by the end of this week with hopes to deliver to the ZBA by early next week. So I think that you all should see an application here very soon. If this group is interested, I'm happy to copy you on that submission as well. I'm not sure if a copy goes directly to the trust, but we're happy to share that with you all.
Yeah, Charlie, I definitely would. I'm the committee chair, and with Elizabeth, I'd definitely like a copy on that if I could.
Okay, yep, absolutely. We'll send that to you. And then, excuse me, some other recent progress that's been made on the demolition of the existing structures. So we're happy that we got through the RFP process. We had responses from a number of qualified contractors, and we're going to be moving forward with the low bidder, which is American Environmental Inc. They give us, I think, a really, really competitive price. And between the two resources that we have available, both the RDF grant and the Housing Works grant that we were successful in receiving from the state, we have $1.1 million to cover the demolition budget, which came in a little bit higher than the sum of those two resources. But I think that we're going to be able to work with American Environmental to sort of get that number down within our project budget and available resources. So I think we're in good shape there. With that said, as it's spelled out in the LDA, and Elizabeth, thank you for reminding me, because we are planning to get into demolition activities ahead of the full project financial closing. We're going to need to enter into a demolition agreement with the town. So we're meeting with our attorneys tomorrow on that to get started. I think that should be pretty straightforward, so folks can expect to see a copy of that within, maybe a week or two, once the attorneys kind of dig in and start putting that together. And certainly we'll share a copy with anyone that's interested before that gets executed. And also on our list, our agenda with the attorneys, and I apologize, this one is on my plate still. We have the grant agreement that hasn't been executed and sent back to you all. So that has been in for review with the attorneys. I don't expect that there's anything controversial in that we're going to push back on at all, but just as a best practice, we want to make sure that our attorneys have had a chance to give it a once over. So after we meet with them later this week, you all should see a signed copy of that on your desks. Those are kind of the highlights. Does anyone have any questions I can help with while I'm here?
Andrew?
Hi. Is there, once the paperwork and permitting process is done, do you have any feel for when the public would see demolition happening?
I think, I think that once we get through signing a contract with the contractor, and this is one that we had to go through a public procurement process. I personally don't have a lot of experience with that, so I don't want to say that it'll be a quick process getting through contracting, but I think it's a relatively modest contract. So I think that we could get through that within a few weeks, and that we could expect that by sometime in mid to late April, early May at the latest, we should be able to get into demolition activity.
Cool, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, we're excited.
Scott, did you have a question or
I
something?
did, but I shared it with Andrea, stole it from me.
Okay,
Telepathy.
whatever it is, works. Any other questions for Charlie? So Charlie, I got to ask the tough question, and I'm really happy to ask you this question. Things were moving like at snail's pace for the longest time.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we've taken off like a rocket. Can you give us your feedback or thoughts on, how we're moving forward?
Yeah, I think going forward, like you said, now that we've gotten kind of the final piece to the ZBA application, which unfortunately that is a little bit out of our control. Once we get the eligibility letter, we can really hit the ground running. I think our team is excited about this one. And per the LDA, once we have gotten the zoning secured, we're going to be submitting an application for financing for this deal in the first available opportunity that we have with HLC. So I think, realistically, if we can get through the zoning here in call it 3 or 4 months, we would be in excellent position to go into the state for a full financing application, which means that we're going to be, pedal to the metal on all fronts on this one, because we have a lot of work to do, but I think we're in good position. And once we can get through the ZBA process, we're going to be really ready to move this one forward.
All right, everybody all set? You?
One other question is, how long will the demo take?
That's an excellent question. I was supposed to have a 3:00 call with the demo contractor today, but he unfortunately had to call in sick, and that was going to be my first question to him. We're going to reschedule that, and I will follow up with Tom and get you all an answer, because I know that's a burning question for many folks, but I will get that information to you very soon.
Just starting, it's fabulous.
Well, thank you for a positive update. Really appreciate it, and I think we're going to really look forward to getting the monthly updates from you going forward, Charlie, so thanks.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
All right, so what do we have next on the list here? 22 Old Tote Road, I think?
Circling back to 22 Old Tote, you were in a great position on this one too. I was hoping to have a full development agreement to bring to you today. I was supposed to meet with outside counsel last week. It got rescheduled twice, so I have that meeting on Wednesday. We have obviously a great community partner, Housing Assistance, on this one. So I think the more we can expedite, they are the experts, right, on deed restrictions and how to make sure to get those filed. So the hope is, with their expertise, we can move as quickly to transfer and closing on this as possible. But everything's stable over there for now. Big shout out to Orleans Housing Authority to help us manage that in the interim. The new director over there, Marissa, has been fantastic. I know she had a tough couple of months taking on a big job in the middle of a big blizzard and never having run a housing authority. So for her to take on this and help this, very thankful to her. So moving that forward as quickly as possible. Again, we'll keep you updated. We're actually going to do a walkthrough with the contractor later this week from Housing Assistance, just so they can start doing their plans and keep this, again, moving along as quickly as possible. I think I mentioned this last time, but did not have the grant agreement in place. So I think it was just a mention, but did want to let you know that as a result of the town of Orleans accepting the seasonal communities designation. So we did that at fall town meeting last year. We were one of the first communities to accept the seasonal communities grant designation. They did put out a funding round, sort of an initial quick funding round of money. For that project. It was a formula grant. The town of Orleans was offered $175,000. And so we had to it was essentially for quick spend projects, that the money had to be spent by June 30th, end of this fiscal year, June 30th, 2026. And the day we had the briefing on it happened to be the day we closed on 22 Old Tote. And I said, well, I have a very timely project that I think we could spend this on. So we couldn't spend it all on, we had two needs anyway. And the way it was structured, we had to break up the spending. So we're going to allocate that money, $10,000, to work on the article to add year-round housing trust powers to your existing powers. And so that'll pay for outside counsel to help my office and all of us on that project. And then the remainder of the money, $165,000, will go to reimbursing the trust for the Old Tote Road purchase. So huge shout out to Julian Sear and the whole team that fought so hard to get this whole seasonal community structure in place and to put some grant awards out real fast. So
Can I add
Great.
something?
Please.
really
So
great.
in other parts of town government, this is kind of under educational bucket, we always think about shovel-ready projects versus long pipeline projects. And I think it behooves us, because we don't operate, most of us, with Elizabeth's knowledge or kind of spreadsheet in our heads, to kind of get more familiar in developing a palette of our interests that are kind of shovel-ready, ready to be funded should grants come in like this, versus our long and slow and multi-year campaigns. So I would look forward to those kinds of discussions, and you, and Elizabeth, you helping us learn what's the difference between an immediate bucket and a middle or long-term.
That's such a great comment. We've been talking about that frequently, sort of on the capital improvement and placemaking side, but thinking about it through this lens too, I think is an excellent idea, because these opportunities do show up, and I know it's hard to believe, but when they come, you have to be ready for them. And again, we got very fortunate this time that we're able to take full advantage. But yes, having that wish list of projects ready to go is a great tool to have when these opportunities arise.
I was thinking about it as technical assistance. If we decide to go, if the trust is at a kind of a point where it could choose to grow in several directions. And so as we look at those directions and plan for them, then a technical assistance grant that might be available, legal help.
Yeah.
You've run through the kinds of support
Yeah.
just now in this meeting that we might be thinking about.
No, excellent comment. So
Are there-
again, we will,
Scott?
sorry. Scott.
Are there any restrictions on how the funds can be used?
So No, so they will go to, again, essentially reimburse the trust for 22 Old Tote. So we'll go back into our, back into our 120% account. So we obviously have the CPC account and then the less restricted account that we can spend up to 120. So this will go back into the 120 account. But essentially, we're using it like we would be to purchase the property.
Great.
Whatever restrictions we are normally subject to.
Any other questions on this?
Did just want to bring up one thing that came up at closing as we were closing out this project, reminded Attorney Ford. I didn't want to deal with it and not bring it to your attention, but I put in your packet, there was an additional $3,400 charge associated with the
Asphalt?
connection to the sewer on 22 Old Tote Road. It did not get billed by the Sparrows to us initially when we were doing their sewer connection. But Attorney Ford brought it up at closing. He did not want to hold up closing over this $3,400 because we did commit to paying for their sewer costs. So he did commit to paying this $3,496. And it was, again, it was anticipated that this money was anticipated. But I did want to bring up that we will have to do another transaction to close out this 3496. I just wanted it to be on the record because, again, it was not sort of part of the paperwork that went into closing, but it came out of closing. So just noting this.
Just question.
Yep.
Are there any other existing properties like 22 Old Tote that we could be starting to?
That is an amazing question, and to a conversation that Fran and I were having. I mean, to the extent the trust, can help seek out such opportunities, I think that would be. Yeah, that one came to us, but the trust has always been very active in helping identify those type of opportunities and transactions as they come forward. And I think we would be very interested, per our, we have we have a active notice of funding availability out, seeking that. I'm not going to say we're, necessarily putting it in the paper every week, but we do have the internal structure in place to be able to respond to any opportunities or inquiries should they arise.
Susan, can I ask you to just put a hold on that just for 1 minute? Because when we get down to number 7, Fran's going to give us a little bit of an update with Elizabeth, some of the great dialogue and meetings they had. I met with Fran this morning, and he kind of gave me a good update on some of the things they met on. And so I'd like to include that. So that's an excellent point, and let's bear with me for 5 minutes, okay? Thanks. Moving right along, Elizabeth, how about
All right.
grabbing number 5, too?
Harwich Ecumenical Council for Housing, as I noted to Tom, they offered to come. I indicated I'd just give a brief update on the program. I know this is probably the first update I've given, so most of you probably have not had an update on this program since you've been trust members. I had to go way back, but essentially this group, Harwich Ecumenical Council for Housing, they administer a program for us, homeowner emergency loan program. So if we do have a income qualified homeowner that is in need of an emergency home repair, they put essentially a 0% interest loan on the property that they can pay off over I should know. I'm sure it's in your documentation, over a period, and help them, help Orleans residents, again, who are homeowners and who are having issues with the condition of their dwelling, address that immediate work. So this, I can't say enough good things about the folks over at Hutch. They are very experienced. They're excellent to work with. They take care of administration of the program, really soup to nuts. They income qualify all the homeowners. They get bids on the project. They go out and do inspections to make sure those Bids are reasonable. They have been excellent to work with. This project, I think, started back, from what I can tell, in 2016 and was originally funded, and so that was prior to the trust, originally funded with some money from the Community Preservation Committee, I think administered through the planning office. Out of that initial money, which it looks like it was around $118,000, they did 6 loans on that with that initial tranche of funding, and spent down between 2016 and 2020 that entire group of funds. It looks like, and I'm guessing this might have been CPC again because it was 2017, put an additional 30, looks like 32, looks like close to $40,000 into the program. And then since 2021, between 2021 and the time I took over, only did one loan. Actually, did fewer loans because this loan actually closed. I actually helped close this one at the time I was here. So it sounded like there was just a lull in the program for a while. When I came into the trust, I inherited a budget that was around $75,000. And so we closed that one $25,000 loan for a homeowner who had a boiler that failed over the winter. And so now we have about $55,000 left in money that is encumbered and allocated. So obviously that's part of our bigger budget, but money that is encumbered and allocated for this project. So that, I think, is an overview of where we're at. And again, I'm happy to answer questions to the extent that I can, or we can bring back in Harwich Ecumenical Council for a more comprehensive update. The immediate matter that I talked to Alexis about and brought forward was we had an applicant come forward with a project, again, a homeowner. It is a family of 7 living here in Orleans. They are right at the income limit, so 2-income earner family, right at the 80% income limit. And they are seeking, did I write it in here? Yes. They are seeking, so typically the way we have administered these programs, the maximum amount of the loan that we have offered has been in the $25,000 range. And again, that was set sometime around, that limit was set sometime around 2018, obviously pre-COVID. But those are, again, the typical types of loans we have closed over time, have been between, have ranged between $10,000 and $25,000. The bids that came in, and I gave you the rundown on the work that was assessed that needed to be done to the house. That bid came in over the typical $25,000 loan that we have been offering. And let me just confirm. I can't remember off the top of my head. So after several bids, and originally when I spoke about this, I gave Alexis a higher number, and then they got a lower bid in. But this family was seeking to loan from the program $37,330 was the low bid they got from the work. And again, that includes all of the line items that are in your packet. And that is outlined as, again, the sheet that has Hetch's logo on top. So it is a roof, some exterior shingles, some exterior trim, some repairs to a back egress deck, and a door, which I understand is having trouble closing in the house. So that's the extent of the work, but when I talked to Alexis about it, she wasn't comfortable, was just sort of giving an administrative waiver, given the fact that the $37,000 that is being sought is in considerable excess to the $25,000 that is sort of our stated program limit, and the fact that we have $55,000 in encumbered funds. So it would be essentially a good percentage of the encumbered funds that we have set aside for the project. So I wanted to hear from the trust if they thought, again, in speaking with the folks at Hetch, they were very supportive of a program waiver. They saw rising construction costs, and again, I think the immediacy of the need in this case. But again, I did want to bring it to your attention, ask if you would be open to the waiver, if you had any other questions, and if we should bring this back at the next meeting to have a larger conversation about possibly budgeting some additional funds to set aside for the program itself.
Question. Elizabeth, in the history of this, how was this taken care of and when were the thresholds set in the loan program itself?
So I know this was sort of revisited in 2023, but I think the thresholds have been set and have been the same based on the history of loans that I can see given originally in 2016.
In 16, and then who voted, was it taken care of by staff in the planning department? Who voted when a loan was made?
Who voted when a loan was made? So again, the program authorizes, I think, Hetch to administer the program. So we haven't been voting on the individual loans. Maybe Jennifer has more. We have not been voting on the loans, but as long as they qualify and have met all the program guidelines, then we have been signing off.
The board had set thresholds that then Hesh administers?
Correct. So they're program, so a lot like rental assistance. So we went through and we established program guidelines and then have an administrator who administers the program.
Remember any of this?
Jennifer?
Yes, I remember coming to the board and a couple times, quite small amounts, like you say. I think there was one for 7.5, and maybe one for 10 at one point. And the board would vote. My impression at the time was it came out of trust funds. They were, I did not know there was an allocated amount. Because it all was so much after
Just remember it.
2016.
Yeah, I just remember it being reported to us. I didn't remember being an active participant.
Yeah, no. So I think it transitioned. Again, I'm not sure exactly how it got administered pre-trust, because there wasn't a trust in 2016 when the CPC got administered it. So I think it was just the planning office that, again, sort of took the guidelines that were probably presented by Hetch and the planning office to CPC and administered those. And again, has been working like we run the rest of our programs to date. And, I think it's important to show this distinction. While I think about the fact that we have this money budgeted in our larger pot for this, we could always sort of add money from the larger pot into it, but didn't want to have that, as we sort of have now gone beyond the original amount we want to set aside, wanted to have that conversation.
Can I just
Please,
follow up?
yes.
Because I want to always make sure we're looping back to our plans that we've committed to.
Yeah.
So this program essentially allows homeowners to stay in their homes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal. And so even if we as a board consider a policy update, from what I'm gleaning here, that would the carrying out or the executive function would still rest with the planning department and Hesh.
And Hetch, correct, yeah.
But I think among us, who are also responsible for moving that planning, the housing plan forward, it might be a great next agenda item to talk about what do we want to do with this?
Because it is called out specifically in our housing action plan as an item that we want to not just support, but look at potentially continuing and offering on a broader level.
Well, with Alexis out today with the sailing program, why don't we have our pre-meeting next week? Why don't we just, or before the next meeting, excuse me, why don't we just talk about this and see if we want to add it to our April agenda or get Alexis's thoughts?
Yeah,
with
do you
that?
need a decision?
Well, so again, I think two parts to what I'd like to ask the board today. Number one, would you be open to granting the waiver to go from the 25 to the 37 so they can move forward with the repairs on this? Or do we want to have a larger conversation about supporting this program going forward or potentially looking at opening up or modernizing some of the program guidelines?
What's everybody think? I'd like to get everybody's opinion.
Oh, a million questions, Bob.
Yep.
I guess one question is, let's say we wanted to stay within the 25,000 parameter. Are there other organizations, entities that a family could apply to for additional funding support from, organizations in the state or federally? Probably nothing federally, but I don't know.
It's possible. I'm not aware of any of this. I know I came from a community that was very envious that we had a program like this in place, and it was always very difficult to find sources to help homeowners who were similarly situated to this family.
And just to try and get this clear in my head, so we have put a certain amount of money toward this program, right? That's come out of the trust fund.
Right. I mean, we sort of reflected, if you look at your
Covered
budget, it's in the bigger pot. It's all sort of reflected in there. But just to help me budget, yes, I will encumber, essentially set aside certain amounts of funds for each program consistent with the way the trust votes on how much they want to budget for it.
Okay. And so then I'm showing my ignorance here, but, so then we, in essence, pay HESH to oversee the use of those funds.
Correct. So they do the program administration. So again, just like rental assistance, when you get an interested party, HETCH has an application, so they complete that application, file it with the staff there. They will do the review, the income qualification, and so on, and work with the folks to make sure they meet all the guidelines, again, which are important because these are CPA loans and have to meet all those guidelines, Community Preservation Act guidelines as well.
And how do families find out about this program?
I mean, we advertise it, I think lightly. We don't have a huge budget, but we advertise it lightly. And I know it's a resource that I think when we do things like community resource fairs, we make available. I think the attention comes through that sort of continuum of care system. If you have a family who's seeking other services and somebody identifies an issue, they tend to get referred to HETCH.
And and this is my last one, could a family that needs something, just like a new water heater, that's a smaller project,
Yep.
not insignificant, though.
No.
I know they can cost
Yeah.
pretty penny, or assuming their income eligibility was clear,
Yep.
could they apply for this kind of a
Yes.
loan? Yeah.
As Jennifer said, not recently, but, and again, I think it's just rising construction costs. We've done loans that are as small as the smallest loan we've given. The smallest loan that we've tried to give was $7,600. So,
And the HESH has to be the mover in terms of identifying the materials and so on. In other words, a family doesn't go out and say, I've lined up this.
So they have to get bids, again, to make sure that
Right.
everything is sort of on the up and up. They get 3 bids. So when I originally brought this one to Alexis, I think the request was for 43. And so then they got additional bids that came in, and somebody who bid it down to the 37. So that's all part of the program administration, is making sure costs are reasonable and the work is, I think, I don't want to say within the minimal scope needed, but fits under the emergency repair umbrella.
And the family then reimburses the town.
So it's a loan, so it's a 0% interest loan on the property. So they pay it down over time, and then if they sell the property, then the loan comes due. Yeah, it has to be paid back.
And is there a certain period of time that's typically,
I should know that. It's probably,
I didn't see any,
somebody read it. Typically I don't want to say the wrong thing. They're probably 15-year loans. I've run programs like this before, and they typically fall in the 15-year range.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sure, last one?
Scott's got something.
No, I was gonna ask, do you mind if we just go right down the line real quick to, you're coming right up. Mallory, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it would be great to have a bigger conversation about this, and if we could have someone from Hetch come, that would be
Yeah.
really beneficial. I guess my few questions would be, how timely is this?
So I know Kim has been working, Hetch has been working with this family since, let's see, I think her original correspondence.
There's a December request.
Yeah, for a while. I think it's taken some time. It takes some time to make sure the income qualifications come in to get a contract out there and ID all the work and then get bids on the work. And so we have been working with this family for quite some time at this point. I have my original correspondence on this was from July 11th, 2025. So.
And do we know around about how many of these loans are given each year? Is it?
So again, in total, since the program started, we did 7 up front, and then since its transfer over to the trust, we've done 1. And that one, so I've been here for almost 2 years. So that one closed when sometime last year. So they are not. We don't do these frequently. They are emergency loans again for income qualified homeowners.
I seem to recall, I remember the story of the person whose septic failed, who came to us trust, and, we went ahead and we did that, and I have a feeling we might have paid and not identified out of general funds. We may not have the total record, it's minuted, but I'm not sure how the previous accounts were kept, because it was very familiar to the former trustees. I'm familiar with how they worked with.
So these are the records of the loans that I have on file in my office. There should not be any more of these, and I spoke with George on this morning, actually, and the one that I think you're referring to is the one that just closed in my office. So, I'm pretty confident this is a complete record, but there might be other things that got funded through CPC and not through the trust that I'm not privy to.
Andrew? any
I want
thoughts?
to come back to the larger conversation about this, and I'm completely comfortable, since construction costs have gone up 30% since COVID at the least. I'm completely comfortable I would like to pursue both conversations, having the limit raised as a policy issue, and then, again, as part of our commitment to keeping people in their homes, moving forward with this.
I feel the exact same way. I just don't want to mess you up for timing. So if we got a little bit of time left, I'd like to, exactly what Andrew is.
Okay.
So, Scott?
It's a great program.
Yeah.
How is need established? And how is it, I understand their income qualifications.
Right, so that's I think the primary
How is need
driver.
established, and how is it evaluated? I mean, is there a pipeline? I take no from what you've said.
I don't. Again, I think, to Susan's question, I think it sort of comes out of these continuum of care conversations. If you have a family who's receiving other services, I think a lot of times they get referred to the program from somebody who's been in the home and identifies a situation that this might be appropriate.
Well, the reason that I ask is that if we're considering going over the set limit, if there's a pipeline of people that are standing in line, like waiting for a determination as to whether they might receive that, then that would be a consideration. If in however many months we have one applicant and that need is greater than our threshold,
Yeah.
then it should certainly be considered, but the money that they will receive for that, does that mean that there's somebody potentially down the line that therefore?
So that's why I wanted to bring these conversations together, obviously, because if we're oversubscribing the program with one application, then, you might be putting another applicant down the line, who looks like they meet the sort of the parameters, but not have the funding set aside for them.
Emergency is.
So, yeah, so that's why I feel like we do have to sort of have these conversations
Right.
currently.
Also, and what are the other tools if they don't qualify for a home loan through their mortgage program or whatever? And then why aren't we having that larger discussion about funding this differently since construction costs have gone up so much?
Yeah.
So that's why we should bring it back.
The only reason, I'm just, because if you look at, this is not critical at all, but if you look at the itemization of the things that are being done, I mean, I can see where a roof might scream emergency. But a storm door and things, I mean, there are just items on the list. I'm not trying to quibble with them, just understand the degree to which they represent emergency. I mean, if someone lost their boiler, someone loses their heater, someone, there are a number of things that immediately telegraph emergency.
Yes.
But some of these don't strike me as urgent.
All set?
Can I counter?
Sure.
Because also remember that family is taking on, this is a loan program. So they may not have qualified through other traditional venues for that loan. And I think it's like saying to somebody they're willing to accept responsibility and they have deemed these priority items that they're accepting the responsibility for. I'm very uncomfortable saying this is an emergency and this is not having. I just think that's what HESH
Yes.
is for.
I
So they make the
agree.
determination.
Absolutely.
And anytime, and I do have to say, like, again, this is only the second application I've worked through with them, but they're very transparent. If there's ever a question about whether something might sort of fall within the guidelines or not, they always bring that forward to me and ask, like, I think this family might have been like $100 over income. And they did come to Alexis and I, and she authorized that one as a chair waiver. But I mean, they do a very good job administering the program. I mean, looking back, it sounds like the need for the new roof is urgent, part of it caving in. And then the siding and gutter repairs are associated with that roof failure.
Fran, your thoughts?
Does this fall under or one of our goals, our housing goals, right?
Yes.
It's 6B to be precise.
Yeah.
Enhance funding and outreach for the existing small grant program to preserve and stabilize existing housing through emergency home repairs and so forth. It's right in the ballpark. I also agree that price levels are way higher. We did get that 25.
Yeah.
Those dollars in 18 are not today's.
Are different dollars.
So do we need to vote to approve 37? Or is that something?
Yeah, so per Alexis's thoughts on it, she wasn't comfortable with just authorizing a sort of off-the-books waiver, but asked that it be brought forward to the trust for a vote.
So I'm a little confused, though. Are we going to continue the dialogue, or do you want to take a vote right now?
Motion.
So,
Anybody can make a motion.
I would move that we approve the $37,000 toward this HESH loan.
Second. Now you can discuss.
Move things
When
along.
I'm 37.3, right? 37,300.
Yep, that exact number, just so you have it for the record again. I'm not sure it made the packets, was, 37,330.
37,330.
So I amend my motion.
I'll amend my second. The amount, you can always use amount requested in our
Yeah.
packet.
Fine.
anybody oppose?
Well, you have to ask for discussion, right? No further discussion during the motion? And then all those in favor, all those
I
opposed?
thought we just went
Same.
around and we all, okay.
No, you have to do it formally, so it's recorded by our secretary.
Any further discussion on this? Okay. So we take a vote now?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
All right.
I'm sorry, I thought it was pretty obvious, so my
No,
apologies.
you
I
have
got-
to, you actually have to do it, Tom. This is government. So-
Okay,
And then so it's 6 in, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor,
6-0.
0. So 3 zeros. I mean, 3 categories.
6-0-0.
Right.
I think we need to make sure we remember to count something like this toward our goal of 350, right? Because we're gonna forget some of these
Point.
things.
Well, those are
and-
new
that's a good
units.
point.
Yeah.
Those are, the
New
350
units.
are new units. This counts, our goal is keeping people in their
Keeping
housing.
people, right, which I'm not sure we set a particular.
No, there's not a number,
but
it's just,
It's too bad.
Nice try, but
Nice try, yeah. And are there no other entities that provide
yes.
zero
Outreach
income?
Council,
So they administer it for us. So I think some of you saw the press release when it went around. The towns of, I want to say it was Brewster, Wellfleet, and Dennis maybe got a federal community development block grant to administer this program. And there is a private company, I want to say there's something like the Resource Institute out of Yarmouth that helps them administer. So a bunch of folks said, oh, can we look at Orleans participating in this program? And I talked to the folks at Brewster. There was a very specific strategy about why those towns were chosen relative to income qualifications to be able to participate in the program. There had to be sort of a certain profile. So it didn't look like there was an immediate opportunity to jump on there, but always looking for other funding sources, to our larger conversation. And I did vet that one. Because there are other opportunities for that. Again, I spent a lot of time looking at this in another community I worked in because it was a priority, really a priority. And one of the biggest challenges was you need a good organization to administer it, and we're very thankful to have Hedge administering this for us.
any further discussion on this topic?
could we please have it in an upcoming agenda to review priority for this policy?
Yeah, we can ask them to come in and maybe give you guys a more fulsome program overview, answer the questions about the details of administration, and
Maybe be prepared to
about
speak on
needs.
the ratio. We know how many, we know that we have a certain number of cost-burdened families in this community, but how it affects people who are ownership-oriented and income-shy of that. If they have any numbers, that would be great.
Yes, I know, yes, we have some breakdown on cost burdened home ownership. It's a lot higher than you would think.
And then if they can break it down even to seniors who can't afford to move out of their homes and have to stay in them, and families struggling also, that would be great,
Yep.
age-related.
Okay, on to item number 6.
Okay.
Needs
General
from Elizabeth.
updates. These are just my, again, regular updates. Wanted to include, sorry, let me switch over here. Just wanted to include that updated budget as it stands today, accounting for everything we have going out and going in to date. So that is a total of, again, 1.6 in our fund at currently. Year-round Housing Trust wanted to give you the update that have been, I don't know I actually don't know if the select board has voted to include that on the warrant for fall or not, but working with special counsel to make sure that we have all that language set for town meeting.
It's a placeholder.
I know there's a placeholder for it. I haven't gotten the
Haven't
call.
voted anything.
All right, I haven't gotten the call to
Yeah.
come present it yet. But again, that's under the new Seasonal Communities Act designation, and the regulations allows for the expansion of authority of existing affordable housing trusts to be able to focus on the needs of year-round residents earning up to 250% of area median income. So again, I think that meets some of the needs that we have in our housing assessment about raising those income limits. Before I got here, there was a big push, and I think actually even a vote for special legislation to try to get the board up to 200% AMI. So in many ways, that's accomplished through the Seasonal Communities Act designation. And then with 10,000, with a little bit of the funding we got from the grant program, we'll have the guidance of council to be able to bring this forward confidently. Should it pass at town meeting, we'll see an update to our declaration of trust in addition to the bylaw, so probably our charge as well. So all things to look forward to this spring.
Mr. Chair, can I ask another question about that? Just to confuse us more.
Say that again?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Because, Elizabeth, also, we're also contemplating in the short-term rental fees that might come in once we have a rental inspection program.
Correct.
And so that will be another potential, it's not active yet, but that in the future might be an income stream since the select board voted to designate a good, I think 75% of whatever that income is to this authority.
Yes, so kind of two separate things,
Apples and
so.
oranges, but
Yes, but all around the idea of looking at the issue of short-term rentals in our existing housing stock. At fall town meeting, we voted the community impact fee on short-term rentals. Again, the select board voted that 75% of that fee, which is charged on professionally managed short-term rentals, will go into affordable housing. We should be right there at our first update from the state. Again, that went into effect January 1st, and they report that to us quarterly. So probably not exactly short-term rental season right now, so I can't imagine we'll have major revenue, but at least we'll see, we'll have a first reimbursement on that community impact fee this quarter. The state reimburses us quarterly. And then Andrea's alluding to the fact that we have had discussions and do have hopefully a position coming forward in the budget that would be funded. Right now, we don't charge any registration for any rental in the town, but would be looking to charge a registration fee through the Board of Health on short-term rentals that would go into inspecting those rentals for life, health, safety issues.
if you play this down the road, one of the questions that some of us have been wrestling with in this group for a while is that we have developed and designated income streams for 80% and for 100% through CPC. If we get this seasonal designation as a year-round trust, there's no dedicated income stream yet. And so then as we look at funds that might come from other sources, do we put them towards our main goals that already exist at 80% or 100% match to CPC, or do we start looking at income that could come in to address this new? And that's a future conversation with the board. But I think it behooves us to be aware of where income comes from and what are the limits that we work with it.
Tom?
Do you have any,
I'm sorry, go ahead, you go.
Please.
Okay, just follow up on what you're saying. I think you're absolutely right. I think this is going to be a good thing. I suggest we have this on the agenda to discuss, or at least update, the next time we meet. I don't want this to
After town
slip
meeting.
away.
No, but after town meeting, because it hasn't happened yet.
No, but I want to learn more about this, and I think all of us need to really fully have a grasp on this, because my bet is, if this goes to town meeting, some of us are gonna have to speak to it, potentially.
absolutely.
So I want to be well-versed on this personally, and if it is a good thing, let's speak with enthusiasm and confidence about it, you know? And so I'd say, as a matter of course, let's continue to touch base, even though there's no progress on it or whatever, just, it'll stimulate maybe our, become kind of a teaching moment, all of us, the next time we discuss it.
Because that was an elevator pitch for it.
The crude question is there any order of magnitude of what kind of revenue this might generate for us?
So the
Back of
community
envelope
impact
figure,
fee?
I know it's
Yeah.
not, not even baked yet, but I mean, there has to be an idea.
Yeah, so on the community impact fee, and again, these are professionally managed short-term rentals, we looked at, I think, the 4 other Cape communities that were generating revenues, and I want to say they were taking in, I mean, it's modest. It's around, I want to say, $150,000 to $200,000 in annual revenue from the community impact fee. So it's not the millions of dollars that we're bringing in through the room occupancy excise tax that's funding our sewer. But again, it's targeting those. It's targeting the short-term rentals that are acting as essential commercially managed properties, and making sure that they're doing their part to contribute back to our sort of larger housing ecosystem. And I don't want to jump ahead, but to the conversation that Fran and I had, and I think to your point, Andrea, I think it would be very beneficial to get somebody in from the county to talk about how these programs from the Cape Cod Commission, from the county, to think about, how do we get here, first of all, to, this idea of the seasonal communities designation, and, what they're thinking in terms of being able to fund year-round housing trusts. That's tied to, I don't know if you saw the recent Barnstable County Commissioner vote on the sort of pushing for towns to be able to charge a real estate transfer fee on high-end real estate transfers. That's obviously very tied to this push for year-round housing trusts, both at the local level and at the regional level. So I really think it would behoove us to have some combination of the county and the Cape Cod Commission come in and sort of lay out the vision that's in the regional housing strategy for you all, so you can sort of see the pieces of the puzzle.
I completely agree with that. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Could we do a whole thing just on funding?
Yeah.
I mean, income and the different trust levels and income?
Jennifer, can you capture that in the minutes for?
Just there'd be even if it's a separately scheduled meeting, a workshop.
We really need that, without question. Yeah, well, Fran will talk, and Elizabeth here shortly on the next topic too, because they've done some excellent work, and I'm really sorry I missed that meeting, but
okay.
sorry, Big East basketball took priority.
That's very important.
Anything else here that if we move on to number 7?
No.
No, I'm sorry, we're still.
No updates on the development report, and just your regular quarterly update on rental assistance program. That's fully subscribed. I think we have one slot left in rental assistance program. So.
Can I ask a free question?
Yep.
Like unencumbered cash question?
Yep.
If we, because the way this is done, I see interest that we earned, but what's our current unencumbered dollars? Yeah.
The 1.6, 1,612,081. That is our current unencumbered balance.
That's fantastic. I was
I
afraid.
took, so essentially so I haven't formally encumbered the Governor Prince funds yet. So that's our current balance that's in our account minus the 1.5 for Governor Prince. But that reflects,
Wouldn't be very.
that reflects the,
Let's go where Prince kicks in.
it reflects the encumbrances for Hetch and rental assistance. But, and theoretically for Governor Prince.
On that balance sheet, Elizabeth, where it says the 2025 loan of 15,794, that's a loan that's out currently? Is that what that means?
I'm sorry, point to me where you're looking.
On your
Hesh.
balance sheet, under Hesh loan, you have
Yes.
the amount encumbered, then you have this loan of 15.
Yep, that was just a reminder to myself as part of this conversation that was the last loan we had made. So so on the last balance sheet, you'll see that the number was subtracted from the overall balance. So this accounts for that $15,000 loan.
So that's a loan, last loan made but not repaid?
So being repaid, so it's
In
out there.
process.
Yeah, so it's leaned against the property.
Thanks.
I just wanted to somehow record the change
Yeah.
from the last update you got to this one.
Well. So I think we covered everything now.
Yep.
Let's move on to item number 7, if we could. And I'd like to just ask everybody I looked at the items as they're listed here, Jennifer, and, I looked at last month's meeting. I reviewed the video twice because I think we had a great dialogue, I thought, on several subject matters. But at the end, I wasn't sure who was on first, and I'll just put that out there. So I know we had, what, 4 or 5 items that we said we're gonna make sure are on our agenda moving forward. I think it's probably more like 8 or 9 or 10, but just to get everybody's thoughts, if there's something here that you felt should have been on the agenda for today, Susan, I cut you off and said, can you know, we'll talk about it some more here going forward. Let's make sure we add it on here, because I really think we covered a lot last meeting. I think the format was good. We just kind of had like an open dialogue.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought we had some very, at least for me, it was very productive conversation. Not sure where we ended up, but I thought we talked about a lot. And I know, Susan, you probably wanted it, which I thought we were going to go down the goals for the 10-year plan. And we kind of did kind of in a roundabout way, but, you know, I don't know if we have time today, but we'll probably do that maybe at a future agenda item. But anybody, if there's something here that is not here, or here you'd like to really elaborate on, let's please bring it up, because I think, again, I think that we could talk here for the next 4 hours if we wanted to, and I do not want anybody to have to do that, but I don't want to exclude anybody from something that they're disappointed isn't here on the agenda, if that makes any sense. Okay? Like, Fran, do you want to, Fran, just give a quick, Elizabeth, do you want to just give a quick update on you two guys and what you covered? And because I thought it was excellent. I was, like I said, very disappointed I missed that meeting. But maybe just so the rest of the group can hear some of the things you guys kicked around.
Yeah, Fran asked me to speak to it, but he was the one who came in with a very concise outline of questions, and sounds like gave you a great update. So
Let me just say how this all kind of fell out. After our meeting, I went back and I went through, remember this document, action plan? Yep. With the boxes and the numbers and so forth. And so Affordable Housing Trust / committee showed up a lot. And so I tried to bullet point all of the items that we were kind of being tasked with. It's quite a bit. And I won't bore you with all this. And some of the stuff, it actually even extended into effective lobbying with state government, which is beyond the scope of, I think, anything this group has ever done. And so there's quite a bit of hopeful language in these goals and objectives. There are some things which are kind of thrown out there, and I'll touch on a couple of them. Creating a grant or low-interest loan program to rehabilitate existing and encourage new affordable units. A down payment assistance program, possibly. Buy downs we've discussed for deed-restricted properties. All of these things, the question starts with, well, how do you create a mechanism for doing something like this, extending it to people, and then funding it? And so at the town of Orleans level, I think these are gargantuan challenges. And so one of the things I brought up was, what about Cape-wide initiatives along the same lines? And ultimately, that's what housing authorities kind of do. And will that ever happen on the Cape? I think Elizabeth was all that optimistic about the challenge to coordinating the creation of an entity like that. But long-term, that's probably where Cape Cod has to go to create financial help for people at various income levels to get into housing. With regards to the issue of funding possibilities, there's nothing that really jumps out that gives me confidence that we're going to be able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars from donors. I don't think that's a practical objective. Although there are a couple of things that may effectively satisfy that need. One is, for example, is there a way for us to be better acquainted with the needs and plans of surrounding communities for affordable housing? Now, Elizabeth made a good point that there's kind of a soft cutoff where developers don't venture, and it's around Hyannis. Whether it's property density, the possibility for, I should say, population density, or the possibility for doing large enough projects to get an economic return, whatever it is, developers aren't necessarily ready to come do a 20-unit apartment building or something like that out here. On the other hand, if there were scale economies available for a collectively financed and planned community or affordable housing project, it might develop developers' interest. It might satisfy quite a few communities' needs, and it also might take advantage of properties that are available that on which a development plan never envisioned anything more than, say, 20 units or 15 units. But it might have the capacity to do quite a few, which would satisfy, say, Eastham, Orleans, Brewster, and so forth, needs. So anyway, that's just, once again, it's kind of a question with no answer. Is this possibly a fruitful path for us to pursue? Another thing is town-owned land. Once again, questions with no answers, and they may be dumb questions, but you're supposed to ask them anyway. What is the plan once the police and fire facility is completed for the old facility and that property? Is there may be some people may be assuming a certain thing's going to happen there, but A, is that true? B, is that the right thing to happen there, given the priorities or the needs of the town? So I'll just throw that out there, that's something for us to run down. It's just a question.
Excellent points.
But are there other, and I'll ask, I'm not that familiar about town-owned property, but are there other properties that conceivably, where it's assumed they will forever be used for X, but may, without naming anything in particular, may possibly be
Elizabeth,
reconsidered?
Can I jump in? Can I
Please.
jump in?
Yeah.
And these are fantastic questions. They're in-process questions, meaning you're raising them afresh, but many of them are already in action. So for instance, the idea about how do we develop and look at the town-owned land or its redevelopment, right? So we have partners that are regional, like the units in Wellfleet that are being built in an incredible partnership on, I think it's Holbrook Avenue. Help me with this. It's HESH and Community Development Partnership. And so there are regional partners that look at scale of development and efficiency. And often communities step up, like Orleans, and figure out what's the right fit that should belong to the developer and what belongs to the town. And a lot of times it's infrastructure that the town takes on to make that development or that project go. So it can go from a 20-unit to a 40-unit if the zoning and the sewer and the other pieces are in place. And that's usually done project by project by project. One of the feeders for land, the idea of do we have land that can be redeveloped or reused or thought about differently, every time open space makes a recommendation for purchase, it goes through a staff review that looks at highest and best use. And then those boards are triggered in. Sometimes open space is shocked that something they wanted to do as open space comes back as a housing development, better situated for housing. So the questions you're raising prompt a fresh dialogue, I think, because they're in process potentially in mechanisms that we're not aware of as a board.
Well, I think you actually put your finger on the next thing I was going to raise, which is that the open space initiative operates kind of in its silo, whereas we have a surfeit of, we don't have enough land
That's right.
to
It's
develop.
redevelopment.
So, and many open space projects, I'll call them a project, are often long conversations, is my impression, that people don't just call up on the phone and 6
There's
months
an
later.
open space committee that works with the planning department. And then works with Mike Solitro. There is an absolute process.
I know there's a process, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's
Yeah.
something that has often a long developing period.
And one of the things that we should be in conversation with is, because there are projects, we have models for projects where open space and housing come together and produce a different type of project because you're looking at both needs. So you build, instead of sprawling housing on a site, you might contain, like in Nantucket, you contain housing to a small percentage of, or Babcock Ranch in Florida, huge project. But you treat the site differently because you've got shared priorities.
Well, I think conceptually, I think that's great, but I don't see the results of any of these conversations. I don't see where we get a look at an open space.
It hasn't been the trust's role up till now to be in that conversation until it's a funding question. And I would argue that Governor Prince, the whole layout of Governor Prince's project, was impacted by this idea of clustering versus land use on a smaller scale. But I also want to address two other things you said. You didn't see a role for development or a development arm. And I have to tell you, because I had a family come to me that wanted to donate $50,000 cold, but we didn't, it was when the trust first started, we didn't have a project they could donate to. They wanted something precise that their money would be used for, and I sent them somewhere else. Because we didn't have the capacity to say, oh, you want to help people stay in their houses? You could donate to this program. Do you want to help build a new public housing at 44 Main? You could contribute to this program. We have not developed that menu yet, but the seasonal community has built on the Cape more. The out-of-towners built Preservation Hall. The people want to help this community thrive who aren't here year-round, but they have a stake here. So there's a big pot, and if we develop now we're circling back to Susan's point, which is some of these projects, families have come to us because they want to do something good for the town. Orleans, the Conservation Trust has that relationship. They've had that ask out there for a long, long time. We have not developed that ask. It's general, it's not specific. And there's room there to develop.
I think we're talking about two different things, when we're talking about Conservation Trust and what we're involved in.
But
This is an extremely complex, multi-staged process that we have to engage in. This committee has an enormous agenda before it.
Right,
And
right.
for us to be in the development business, I don't see I don't know how we're gonna do that.
Well, let me just suggest that you build development over a decade, but you establish an ethos in your community that yes, you can donate a piece of undeveloped land, but you can also donate a home. You can also work towards deed restrictions, like if there's no kids in the family in the next generation, work with a family to turn that home into a deed-restricted property. There are all kinds of ways to do it, and just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean it can't exist.
Right, but I think where some of the discussion came from, Andrea, and Fran, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think when Fran started bringing some of the stuff, and fortunately, I got included with some 3-hour breakfasts. No, they're more like 2 hours. This affordable housing, we have a 10-year plan.
That's right.
Again, let's go back to the plan, right? Where do we stand with that plan? No one has a clue,
No,
right?
Elizabeth gives us updates.
Sure she does, but we got some really nice projects on there.
Right.
what's the next project coming up?
And that's for this group to decide its priorities.
Well,
right?
that's where I'm going with it. So I think we have to hold each other accountable. And look, who's out there going to find more land so we can do the next Governor Prince and the next?
So I would say to you, open space has existed as a long time as a committee. The committee members, especially the chair, have deep relationships in the community. And people approach her, or they approach George Meservey, when they're kind of kicking around the idea. We have not, we're a young institution. We have not chosen it, and I think you're right. If we go back to the plan and we put, here's our energy level, here's our capacity, here's our priorities, we can choose where we put our efforts, or if we engage and get more staff, or hire this function out to other organizations that do it, it's all at our discretion, right? But to say that something can't possibly happen, it's already happening. It's just, we're not part of that action.
Well, I didn't mean to send the message that it can't happen or that we shouldn't make it happen. But let me just step back for a second with open space. Civic-minded, thoughtful individuals approach people in open space, maybe through other people at town government, to donate property. And there's because the purpose for that donation resonates with them, that retaining space in perpetuity where people have access and can enjoy nature or a natural setting. At the same time, I do believe that we should be able to appeal to the civic-mindedness of the very same people when we say, if we had an opportunity to, at the same moment, say, well, you know, yes, open space, that's a noble idea, but there are other really serious needs for the town, for the overall community, that you might want to think about, where a kind of a hybrid plan might be appropriate, or you might even think about donating property that could be developed for people of certain incomes. And I don't think we have that it's not in the portfolio of the people who are having these conversations you allude to. So I will go back and say, how do we attune the people who are having these conversations when, say, a property comes on, comes before whoever it is that's discussing this, and where we say, look, have we approached the very same people and say, there are other options that you could consider that would help the town, help the people in your community. And I don't for a minute disregard that this is a very sensitive conversation. For example, I could think that open space people might feel as if this were inserted into the conversation, they might feel a little put off, as if they're
I'm the liaison. They're good with it.
Okay, fine. Well, I hope they're good with it, because we're going to really make an ask that these people consider some kind of an option which would allow housing to be be on a part or all of this land. But how do we, I guess the question then is...
It's not open land normally. It's,
or
yeah,
whatever it
it's
is.
all kinds of things.
Whatever it is, right. But how do we, I mean, you mentioned that there's a conversation sort of that goes around the table once this comes before, whoever comes before, and that housing actually comes up and a decision is made and we don't know about it?
Yes, that's all the time.
Maybe we ought to know about it.
Well, but again, it depends. So it's just like, it's been quietly going on for years. And George Meservey, who's an expert on every single property in this town, and I have to tell you some very creative uses. More than 10 years ago, a couple who is in town and very active in the community, younger couple, said, we would like to buy a property. In the summer, the town can use it but we're going to have a retreat. We're going to have a writer's retreat because we see an economic development that we want to make it like the Iowa Prize. And we want a facility that can be used 9 months of the year to house programs, arts programs, writing, literature, all that stuff, and we'll give it to the town to use. There wasn't a site and a building that would loan itself to that activity. So all kinds of interests, not just housing, but economic development, land use, open space, all that stuff comes discreetly. And depending on how it comes and the privacy issues, there isn't a reason for this board to be publicly involved until the conversation gets to that point, if it ever gets to that point.
Well, just so I understand, a family, an individual decides to donate, is thinking about donating property to the town, the use for which will be determined by a conversation between the individual and the town.
Yes.
All I'm saying is I think that there should be another option put before this person to say, you can also consider making an equally important decision to do X instead of Y.
It's already there. It's just not happening with this board. But if this board develops an arm, a marketing of that option, then there will be more of those conversations happening.
Thank you.
So
Can I
you're
put
just
in
saying
a-
we're not organized to be able to address
never-
the issues that come on the table?
And we've never developed a menu of how to relate, what are the options for anyone, whether they live here or not, to participate in all of the things we said we want to accomplish in our housing plan. That, if we actually, so that goes back to, let's update our housing plan, let's prioritize what our interests are on this board, what we're willing to work for now, because that plan is bigger than all of us, right? And it's the use of our main power and where we get excited. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, it just means every cause needs a champion.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I took it.
Susan?
Go ahead.
I just said it, this is such a great conversation. I had just a couple thoughts. One is, my husband's on the Orleans Conservation Trust, and I've been on this trust, and we have these conversations all the time where he says, oh, we've just had this property donated, or, oh, yeah. I'm like, well, why are you getting property and
Because
what?
they've been marketing this.
Exactly,
for
and
10
I think
years.
I would be very excited to see this trust work toward establishing some kind of marketing vehicle. And I don't know whether other towns have done it and what that would look like and how we could pull that together. But I think, in terms of donating land, in terms of donating a home, in terms of
This board,
just giving money.
this board has
money.
actually cringed at when open space projects with the trust have come up, housing has been torn down because the board didn't have the money or the political power to either move the housing or rehab it. That was.
So I don't think, I haven't participated
No.
in these
Before your time.
conversations, but for one, and I can think of one, that's taken place here. The board did participate in an executive session. It was, I think a marginal opportunity. But I think what's important is making sure that we do have those lines of dialogue open and that we are actively expressing this interest in partnership. And, I think that we can set, I think I can bring forward and help, help sort of inspire the conversation with a number of very successful projects around the region. There was one recently done in Falmouth. The Brewster Landing project is amazing and was a conservation housing trust priority. Chatham runs a whole program around homes that get donated to their trust. That they do sort of a rental into homeownership program. So I think raising awareness of those opportunities, not just in this room, but with other folks who serve on boards and committees, so that when these opportunities do arise, we can collectively advocate for housing as part of this conversation is
Have
important.
just a little flyer. note that says, have you considered this gift?
Yeah.
But also remember, our priority is to develop housing in sewered areas of town. So it's not necessarily a thing where we'd have to change septic, or depending on the size of the units, or, it's a discrete opportunity by opportunity process.
But relationships matter and conversations matter, and I think, to Fran's point, being able to say, oh yeah, I just saw this great project out in Falmouth that did, 4 homes as part of a 20-acre conservation project, could be very helpful in terms of making sure that affordable housing is a part of these conversations as they move
We have a-
forward, and having an advocate in the process, that says to somebody, have you considered, let's make sure we're always considering housing as an
Affordable
option,
housing, exactly.
whether for the fire station property or whatever property we might be talking about collectively as a community. I think having that sort of housing advocacy voice as part of the conversation, that's not just coming from sort of my technical standpoint, but coming from the community needs standpoint is critical.
I think that we are maybe overlooking the fact that there's another committee that has been folded into us.
Yes.
That it's existing without members right now,
That's right.
which you could argue would be that marketing group, that
That's the idea.
an advocacy group. So sadly, we're all going to be wearing more hats. And in the larger sense, and this is something Tom and I talked about, is my view is that one of the things that we're going to have to be doing is advocacy going forward. One of the things that came up, Elizabeth and I talked about it, I've talked about it with Tom, is after the zoning regulations were altered at town meeting to ostensibly create more flexibility for development, for maybe more population density in various spots. And in the wake of an initial design presentation about the Main Street area and so forth, the question comes to mind, where does that stand? And where is that? I mean, there is the possibility, if everything comes together and looking forward, that a gigantic chunk of these housing goals could be satisfied by a successful project that went down Main Street. But where is it? In other words, what happens next? What's the next?
We just got approved by the AG last week, so we didn't want to go out and scream it from the rooftops until we had AG approval. But now that we do, I think in the sort of marketing vein of things, we can start to talk about the potential. So we're going to have a follow-on project that we're doing with the planning board in UTL to look at all the different housing typologies that you can build under the new bylaw. Whether it's your typical sort of in that missing middle housing sphere. So whether it's a 2-unit development or a 20-unit development, literally giving folks the example floor plans of, here's a building that you could fit on your property to help inspire folks into thinking about how we might incentivize the private sector to bring that development going forward.
Also, I would suggest that we would feel a lot more connected, we will feel a lot more connected once the Housing Roundtable starts, because we will be listening to the concerns and being influenced by architectural review or planning board or open space or preservation. I mean, we're going to be, it's a multidisciplined effort.
Which I do think we need. So I talked to a bunch of communities after our last meeting to look at all the different models of sort of how they organize their housing groups that are operating in town. And this idea of, we're calling it a housing roundtable, but it was originally conceived, and it's run that way in many communities, as something they call a housing partnership, which the idea is you bring together your trust and your CPC and your planning board and sort of all the groups that participate, and they actually make, in some communities, the way they were originally conceived is they make recommendations on applications that come before them and things like that. And so I do think, you know, especially in light of that last CPC meeting we went to, I feel that disconnect between, you know, between the different parties right now. And I do think, and yeah, you know, actually one of the communities I talked to love the idea of like meeting on an as-needed basis versus meeting on a monthly basis, because I think you run into the same problems that we did with Affordable Housing Committee. But making sure we're regularly convening these folks so that we're having the same conversations is critical. That hasn't happened since I've been here, and I think definitely needs to start.
And the plan calls out which boards and committees have responsibility to
Yeah.
get the work done. So the thing is, come be part of getting the work done. We've made a commitment.
I'd like to, go ahead.
I was, three things. One is, we've talked about this roundtable over and over and over again, and who is the reasonable person to be the convener of this?
So we talked about this. I think
Does that fall in your lap?
I do the work. I think the select board has to be the convener. I think, you know, they have to be, I'm happy to do the invitations and the room setup, but last time I went to talk about this with the select board, like, I think they have to be the ones to say, you know,
Yeah.
let's make sure we're all marching in the same
And
direction.
Does the select board agree?
On housing.
Select board
They
has
will convene?
not acted on it yet. So, you know,
Maybe Andrea and I have an immediate follow-up on this to sort of map that out.
and also, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt the select board to be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
To say, we're waiting for you, we're ready, we're organized, you know, can you please ceremonially convene this, because our staff will direct it, and this committee is ready to work the details.
Is there a
Susan?
particular holdup? I mean, we've been talking about it for 3 years, so, that I've been involved in this group. Where,
I think you just.
is there a
I
log
think
jam?
you
we
Just need to sit down and agree
Yeah.
that when this is
Put
this
it
is
on the
what we're doing,
calendar.
this is on the table.
I mean, honestly, we've tried to get it on the calendar since a while, but again, we've had community needs that have popped up, and progress on particular projects, zoning and actual projects that have taken the time and the engagement and the multiple, so it's kind of cart and horse. We'll get it straightened out, but we've had great opportunities that we haven't wanted to walk away from that took priority.
Susan, did you see you had a couple other points as well?
Yeah, so one of them was regarding the plan. I would love to see us sort of methodically walk through that plan together.
Yep.
And to be able to look how great it feels to look at something and say, we've done that. You know, big X, or, oh my gosh, we haven't even started thinking about this. But I think we really need to have the plan in hand and walk through each of the steps, like you may have done together already.
Yeah.
That was one thing.
Sorry, Jennifer, can you capture that? And let's make sure we mention it to Alexis, and was it maybe when we get together in a couple of weeks for our next, this may require just a separate meeting entirely for that. I think to try to
Workshop on
get,
the plan and
yeah, I
financing.
think to try and get it all done in next April or May, it's not gonna happen. I think we're gonna need to call something separate, but I'd like to get Alexis's thoughts and input on that before we,
Are you talking about like a smaller group of us to walk through the plan?
no, just a separate,
meeting.
but it's just a
Workshop
separate
form.
meeting
Workshop.
altogether,
Separate, got it.
Workshop.
Okay.
okay?
And my last thing is, Jen did such a great job of capturing that crazy discussion last month. And one of the things was under priority goals, what we've been talking about, which is detailing the trust's fundraising needs, ways to add fundraising as an additional revenue stream. And I would look, and maybe this is a separate kind of workshop too, but to have some meeting where that's what we're focused on. That is our sole discussion.
Talked about that earlier.
Did you?
Yeah.
And bring in people who can help us think about that, or other models, and to really feel like we can move forward with some very concrete things that we can do and prioritize, can't do it all at one time, but to prioritize what we want to do.
So we're after 6 o'clock now. I'm sorry, did you, was that, I thought you were, okay. Don't want to be rude here, but it's after 6 o'clock now, and we kind of covered number 7, A through F a lot already. Is there anything like recruitment we didn't talk at all? Did you want to give an update, Scott? at all?
My update is very short, which is unfortunately, I have not made any progress since we last met. I talked to a couple people, I have phone calls out to some others, and I have just not made that happen to any great degree yet.
Well, thanks for your update. Anything else, A through F? Did anybody have any updates for the group that would benefit? Again, yeah, I'll stay to 8 o'clock tonight if you guys want, but we're on a pace that's gonna go on for quite a while. And I think we just came up with a couple items we need to discuss that are gonna probably require separate meetings for, which are very, very important. And I don't wanna waste time talking a little bit about them when we have we've already, after the last 2 meetings now, we've come to the understanding and agreement that we need to really start, digging into a couple of these very important subject matters.
Can I just raise a point of
Please.
order? It's just that it is sailing season. I'm a little concerned, will you confirm with Alexis whether she can be here for the meetings?
I
And
definitely
then-
will.
Because otherwise, we could reorganize. You can reorganize at any time, but we could reorganize so that you move into the chair position and we can proceed. I don't know how long sailing goes, or can you just guys discuss how we move as a committee? I'm mindful because I will be rotating off at the beginning of May.
Well, we're gonna talk about that, but.
No, but.
We're gonna talk.
Not so fast.
Alexis, I believe that,
fast.
I don't know, her tenure is up.
It's up, yeah, it's.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that leadership is in place and has a way to operate that survives any absences of anyone. Because you're fired up now. This is good.
That's a point well made, and I think several of us are gonna have to talk, and like I said,
And recruit, it goes back to Scott's issue, he shouldn't be doing it alone.
Hey, Andrea, you're moving off the select board, but does that mean you have to,
I'm the select board's member of this group.
of this group?
So there'll be a new select board member. You're not going to lose a body.
Could you be a member of our trust?
Technically, I can, like any other resident, I can, but let's have that not on the air. Let's have that discussion, because that's my personal life, not the
Yeah.
board's stuff.
I like where you're thinking. Okay. Anybody else, any other items? I know we covered a lot today, and thank you, everybody, with a positive attitude, positive energy, really
Would you like a
compliment them.
motion on the minutes?
I'm not there yet. I just want to know if because we kind of went off off subject here on item number 7 before I go through the items. I just wanted to see that we cover everything everybody wanted to at this point. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve of the minutes
No,
from,
you're the chair. You're not supposed to make the motions. You leave it up to your members to make the motions, and then you move it forward. So
I-
you're ready for a motion?
I
You're the acting chair?
move to approve the excellent minutes that were done for our meeting on February 17th.
I second.
so can we move that forward with a vote? Or do we need a
The
vote? from-
discussion, you say you have to ask for discussion.
As per discussion.
And sometimes they're edits, but usually with Jennifer, they're not.
I've not seen,
Great.
Yes.
I've not seen it edit once, so that's why I'm right. Okay.
You've got like stenographer's hands, or you?
Yeah.
That was
So
great,
we
Kathy.
vote on the,
Now you say all. those
all in
approved?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just assumed it, Andrea. See, that's-
No, you can't assume, Tom, it's government. You have to say it.
I'm
The
changing,
record.
I'm changing the rules now.
Right.
Okay.
Future agenda items, I think we kind of covered that already, everybody? Good.
I have to bring to the board's attention that the next meeting in April 21st is school vacation week, and I will be traveling. So
Okay, so we'll probably be moving the meeting to a different date.
could move the meeting, or it might be an excellent opportunity to ask the commission to come in and give you guys a
It
presentation.
sounds like you don't have quorum
Oh, I will not be the only one who's traveling.
date, yeah.
Okay.
So that's an urgent issue. When Alexis is available, let's make sure we talk this,
I know.
You should maybe reset it now because you have your members sitting here.
You know, Alexis had mentioned that she would be,
School vacation
won't
week.
be here, but she could possibly Zoom in to
How
them.
about week of April 14th, if we move the meeting from the 21st to the Tuesday, the 14th? Does that work with anybody?
Check with planning board, because I know they are the second,
Yes, we'll have to find an available room
Yeah.
and time
Yeah.
on the schedule.
So
I can look at the 14th. Usually the skate get room is available. We'll just have to check with Peggy and her team that they can run those concurrently. Yeah?
Unfortunately, I'm gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I won't be
and,
in the country either.
Yeah. I'm gonna be gone.
Well,
from
when
the
are you
11th.
guys gonna be around? No.
I'm gone from the 11th to the 26th.
14th to the 22nd.
How about the end of the month,
Yeah, it's we have 5 Tuesdays, the 28th.
28th?
How's the 28th with everybody?
Yep,
Going anywhere?
do that.
is there, and there's no conflict?
Oh, I'm sorry, there's 5 Wednesdays. There is planning board on the 28th, but we could talk to Peggy and see if we could do.
And what time do they meet here?
They meet at 4.
How about the 29th?
So Wednesday?
Just do it on a
Select board,
Wednesday.
I
I
don't
mean,
know
if we
what
can
that-
get space.
We don't have a meeting that night.
You have a meeting the 29th?
Does the 29th work for everybody? And this room's available that day too?
Let me check the calendar, but normally it's held open on Wednesdays for
Select board.
select boards, so.
Yeah, I just know we're off because we're meeting. I mean, it's not in my head that we have select board.
So we're talking about April 29th?
Mhm.
Yes.
It says select board, but if Andrea says there's no select board, it's just on the calendar. Maybe it's just on the calendar.
Yeah, let's double check.
Okay, we'll double check. But we'll placeholder April 29th.
Get back.
Everybody want to put that down for now, April 29th?
Okay.
Molly will know because it's in the planner.
Okay, it's now 6:12. Can we do time for adjournment here, or?
Mr. Acting Chair, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Any-
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Everybody
All those
approve,
in
agree?
favor?
Oh, yeah.
Super.